Hey guys, Christopher Gadget. Today we're taking a look at Mercedes 2014 E63 AMG S, and that S stands for a higher top speed, more power, more torque, and you guessed it, a higher price tag. But for the money, you get some staggering figures as well as features. And I'm going to tell you more about it right now. Let's start with the figures, because they're pretty astonishing. And the biggest figure that one of the biggest figures people probably want to know about is 0 to 60, the power of this car. Let me just show you. You put your foot down on the pedal, and the thing takes off. There's no doubt about that. And that's a 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. I've heard 3.4, but one thing's for sure, it's damn fast. The top speed is limited to 186 miles per hour. That's electronically limited. It's a hand-built 5.5 liter bi-turbo. And that puts out 577 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque. You get a 4Matic all-wheel drive system from the company, and that 4Matic will send 67% of power to the rear and the difference to the front. You've also got a torque vectoring brake system, which will brake the inside wheels on, say, a corner, send more power to the outside, and that helps reduce understeer and get you through the corner faster. In addition to the limited slip, which adds even more traction. I think it adds up to something like 30% more traction through the corners. So suffice to say, this car handles exceptionally well. There's virtually no body roll, and considering that it weighs 4,500 pounds, it's quite phenomenal that it's as agile as it is. In terms of steering, you know, sure, you've got the electronic setup, and to be quite candid, you know, I'm not a huge fan of it at low speeds because they've got that variable sort of setting, right? You're going slower and it's looser, so it's easier to drive. And in that situation, it feels much more muted. You get it going though, and it feels much more commensurate with, I guess, how spirit of a drive you're committing to, for lack of better words. So in other words, get it going faster, and the steering becomes all the better. And I should note with that, you've got, so to get into that torque vectoring system, you can put it into the Sport Plus mode on the traction control. And you've also got a sport suspension that has 3 settings. You know, you can compare it, if you look at the C63, which I think a lot of people wonder about, which is kind of the younger, smaller brother. Now that car is more agile, but it's far more tail happy. And this car is much more planted. It's got a longer wheelbase. You've got the 4Matic all-wheel drive, which distributes the power. So it's just easier to drive. And when I say comfort, you also get all those features. You get adaptive cruise control, you get lane assist, which we saw in the S6 as well. They've also added a variety of safety features to this vehicle, which includes a radar that looks at the road up to something like 500 yards. And it can also monitor the rear of the car and determine whether or not somebody's going to hit you and apply the brakes, and keep the occupants of the car safer. So there's a ton of safety features, and it would seem that, you know, Mercedes has worked hard to kind of push the envelope in that respect from a technology perspective. Getting into all those, like choosing those features and selecting them, is kind of another ball of wax that you have to go into the menus. There's no actual hard buttons here. So there's one last feature that's really notable in this car, and that is the driver's seat. It's got this dynamic bolstering system, so you can turn it on automatic, and what it does is when the car turns to the right, the bolsters will actually physically move and support you more from the left. And it's a little bit weird at first, but you get used to it and you start to appreciate it. And also, if you get in an accident, apparently, which I haven't been in an accident, so I can't speak to this, but it will do something. It will grip you more if you get in an accident. So presumably stop you from moving around and being jostled as much. You've got a really comfortable ride. You can turn off the sport suspension, you can put it in comfort mode, and you can drive it around every day, and you're not kind of rattling around in the interior, and you can take it for long distances. You've even got some massaging that goes on in the driver's seat. The steering isn't over-encumbering. The gearbox is selective enough in the correct, you know, scenarios that it knows where to be. And for that, you know, it's an easy car to drive. It's an everyday driver. But if you wanted to, you could take it on the track, you switch on the sport suspension mode, the sport electronic traction, and slap it into like a Sport Plus mode, and everything gets remapped as far as throttle and transmission, and it becomes a race car. And that's what makes it sort of this very dynamic vehicle. You look at this car from the outside, it looks like an everyday sedan. It feels, you get inside, from some of the interior components, it feels like an everyday sedan. When I say everyday, German engineered, high end, it's comfortable. There's comfortable front seats. There's a decently sized back seat. There's a big trunk you could fit a bunch of luggage in. And that is all counter to how this car handles and feels. So yes, to answer some people's questions, it is a sleeper, and that's a good thing, because this car hauls ass and handles amazing. I'm Kristen for Gadget Review. When you get a second, click here to subscribe, and keep an eye out. In about 2 weeks' time, we're going to have Audi's RS7, a 500 horsepower, yes, another monster, and so keep an eye out for that review.